Hey, thanks for making it to Veterans Info Tap. Glad you made it. Today I'm going to be talking to you about the Marine Corps Camp Lejeune water issue, and just going to shed a little light on a few things with that. There's been a lot of information floating around and a lot of, coverage on the issues that were there with the water contamination and what the VA calls some presumptive conditions that resulted as a result of that. So if that's something that you're interested in, please hit the like button, share with a friend, subscribe, all that good stuff. Really helps give me a little more exposure, a little broader, so more of us can hear this information. So with that, I'm just going to go ahead and roll into it. One of the big things right out the gate that I want to make sure everybody understands is that although this is the Marine Corps Camp Lejeune, there's plenty of other entities that also would have potentially been there during the time frames allocated. So it's not a Marine Corps specific issue. You could be Navy, you could be part of a reserve component, you could be part of the National Guard, and have been there for some reason. So the way that presumptives work is the VA, will establish a timeline that you can work with. So in this case, with Camp Lejeune, specific to the water issue, and the list of presumptives that are there, which are conditions. So when I say presumptives, I mean conditions. There's a time frame in which these will be in effect. So if you were in Camp Lejeune between August 1st, 1953 and December 31st of 87, that's basically the time frame. So August 1st, 53 to December 31st, 87 would be your time frames. If you were there and you can prove that you were there during that time frame, set of orders or what have you, then these presumptive conditions would be in play for you. Now, there is a list, and I'll put that full list in the description below so you'll have access to that. It will include things like adult leukemia, bladder cancer, liver cancer, kidney cancer, non-Hodgkin's lymphoma, and Parkinson's disease, and I think a couple other ones. So with those, what you really want to think about is really, at the end of the day, if you served in Camp Lejeune, or you were there on orders, or you were there and you could prove you were there during these time frames, and you today, currently, or you did suffer from one of these conditions, one of these presumptives, basically what happens is the VA concedes the nexus. They just go, yes, you served during that time frame, you have that condition, we're going to grant you that claim. So it's important to realize the difference between a presumptive claim for disability and a non-presumptive claim for disability. So with non-presumptive claims, which is just any claim that you're going to be filing with the VA, right? So my bad back from being a mortarman, right? So that basically boils down to three things, right? My time in service gives me a window. My bad back, I need to go get a diagnosis for that. And then the third thing would be a nexus, that link between my time in service and that condition, showing that that condition had manifested during that time frame. So the ideal situation would be that during my time in service, I went to the doctor and I got diagnosed with whatever, a herniated disc or a lumbar strain, whatever, right? I got some sort of a diagnosis while I was in service. So what that does is that plants that diagnosis, that condition, as manifesting in my time in service. Now, what the presumptives do is the first two things still apply, but what they do is they become more stringent on the time frame and location in which you served. So instead of being broad, like you just entered service and you exited service, they are going to say, between these time frames, did you serve in these specific locations? So they get a little more stringent in that area. Then the diagnosis piece is still in play. You have to have a diagnosis. You can't just say, I have X. You actually have to go to a doctor and get diagnosed for that condition. So for the presumptive, let's just say that you have kidney cancer. So you go get diagnosed, you now have kidney cancer, and you served in Camp Lejeune in 1983. You were there. And you have proof that you were there during that time frame, and you have bladder cancer. The VA does not need anything else from you to grant this claim. The nexus is already given by the fact of meeting the other criteria, which is having the condition and serving during that specific time frame. Now, some of the questions that I've seen out there are, okay, well, what if my condition is not one of the presumptive conditions? And I served in Camp Lejeune, and I feel as though my condition is as a result of the contaminated water. What then? Well, there's not a presumptive for it, so unfortunately that's not an avenue today. However, there's always still more information coming, and new presumptives can always be added. Just like the Vietnam era for Vietnam Agent Orange presumptives, there's been new presumptives added to that, maybe 5 or 6 just over the last several years. So there's always a possibility of new presumptives being added. However, if your condition is not on the list, and you feel as though it is due to the contaminated water, then you need to work very heavily with your doctor and have your doctor provide a Nexus letter, because this is not a presumptive claim at this point. It would be a standard claim, so you would need to substantiate your claim, your Nexus, that this condition is due to the contaminated water. The VA's threshold is 50-50. Its evidence is in equipoise. They're supposed to rule in your favor. So the word or the verbiage here is at least likely as not. So if the doctor's argument that your condition manifested due to the contaminated water, then they could write a Nexus letter and essentially come to the conclusion that it is at least likely as not to have occurred during your time in Camp Lejeune, during this period of contaminated water, and that this is at least likely as not to have been the contributing factor to your condition. And that should be enough for the VA to rule in your favor due to that 50-50 equipoise, supposed to rule in your favor situation that the VA works with. So with that, a lot of times I will see that the VA at the regional level may decline, your claim, but when you go through to the Board of Appeals, they actually look at it through the legal lens, and they will rule based on that 50-50 rule that they're supposed to rule in your favor. So at least that's what I've seen. So with that, I'll go ahead and conclude it. Hope this shed a little light on the presumptives at Camp Lejeune and additional conditions that may not be presumptives today, but kind of how to tackle that. So thanks again for watching. I appreciate everyone. And hey, if we don't take care of each other, something went wrong.